Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are joined by HYROX Elite 15 athlete Kate Hutchinson. She races doubles with a partner Fern Gardner, who we had on the podcast not too long ago. Together, they've put out some amazing performances in the Elite 15 majors this year. So we needed to get them both on for a chat. And fresh off completing the London Marathon, we're keen to hear how that's been, how the season's been, how preparations for World Champs are going, and how the hell you juggled marathon training alongside HYROX. So, welcome to the podcast, Kate. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, thank you so much.
Well, maybe that's a good start. We spoke to Fern a couple of weeks ago, and I think you girls were just about to head off to Warsaw. So you competed in the Warsaw Major, and not long after London Marathon, or was it before London Marathon? You tell
Before, I
us.
think, wasn't
Yeah, so I think Warsaw was the weekend before the London Marathon. Um,
Great prep.
oh, honestly, do you know what? I was so excited to do that race, obviously, because I feel like I'd worked really hard for the marathon, but I was also delighted for it to be over. It was one of those things, it was quite tough balancing the two. The marathon and the high rocks training, um, very, very kind of different stimulus. The marathon training, the long runs were taking a lot out of me. And it felt that the high rocks, was the thing that I was performing better in. And obviously kind of achieving big things with Fern, like you were saying. But it felt that I wasn't able to kind of necessarily like fully immerse myself into either or. So it was tricky to juggle, but I just about managed it. So
Oh yeah, I mean
yeah.
you smashed the marathon. Like what time? I did see on Instagram, but if you don't mind sharing, what time did you
Yeah,
do
of course.
London?
So I actually ended up with a 309.11, I think it was, which I was super, super happy with. Um, so I've done three marathons in total. The first one I did 2 years ago, and that was I sadly lost my dad last year. He had motor neuron disease. And when he was diagnosed with it, in Leeds we have the Rob Borough Leeds Marathon, which is obviously, a huge sort of a monumental occasion, like and sort of highlighting M&D, and I just couldn't not do it. So I've raised money with a group of friends. Actually, we raised a lot of money, and I did that race, having never thought I'd be able to complete a marathon. Because despite kind of like all the sporting background, I just felt that it was beyond me in terms of kind of niggles and maybe not being built for it. So to complete that, I was just like over the moon, and I did it in 4 hours, pretty much exactly. I think it was like 4 hours and 8 seconds or something like that. And I did like ran the first half with friends, and then kind of built across the race. So I had this sort of like I did finish it, and it was the kind of the best feeling because I was quite fresh, sort of in the back half. And then just immediately was like, oh my God, I want to do another one. So entered the London Marathon ballot and then somehow got into that. First time I've ever entered the ballot. And, friends were like, I've been trying for 15 years. I was like,
I mean, there'll be people listening to this now, I bet, going, what? I've been trying and I'm still not going. So it does happen, everyone. You do sometimes get in on the ballot.
yeah, you do. Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. So yeah, and then I did more training for that one. But again, just kind of still keeping it relatively, not taking it super seriously, kind of being like, I'd like to beat the 4 hours. And then it sort of arrived, and around the training for that first London Marathon that I did, Fern and I were kind of hearing whispers about Elite 15 stuff, and we went to Paris last year, and sort of did our first kind of race where we went like head to head with like the biggest names in the doubles, so kind of like Margot and Charlotte. I think I can't remember who else, like Seka, Viola. these massive names, and we didn't have a great race. I think that we were a little bit overwhelmed, and the pace was really hot from the beginning. And I think that, I remember running out as hard as I possibly could, just being like, oh, this is our chance to kind of, qualify. I think it was the last chance qualifier. And we just died a death. But yeah, so around that time I was still doing HYROX things, and then did the London Marathon, and I got 3:25 in that marathon. Yeah, so I've just kind of steadily built, and then this year, so that 3:25, it got me the good for age time. And yeah, around that time I kind of got a coach. I started training with PGC1, they're called. And yeah, I just sort of said to the coach, I'd really like to get, a big PB. I know that everyone kind of looks for like the sub 3. And I just said, I don't think that that's me this year, but I think a 3:10 I'd be like over the moon with.
Oh wow!
That well then.
Good, yeah. And he was really positive. He kind of said, I think a 3:10 is absolutely doable, considering that sort of like the 3:25 that you kind of did without lots and lots of structure. So yeah, and I think when I first started with him, he was like, you're going to get between a 3:05 and a 3:10. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, the marathon was great. I was really, really pleased with how I did. I managed to sort of like hold the time that I wanted to, which was 4:20 per kilometre, for 37 kilometres. And then just as I saw a sign that said, you've just got a park run left, I just cramped everywhere. And was like, oh no, and then I had to stop. And I stopped about 4 or 5 times. So I think, I am absolutely delighted that I came away with that time, because when I was kind of stood stretching, and I truly was like, if you imagine, I had both feet turned out, like, straddling in the middle of the street against a pole like this. Everything was cramping, all my inner thighs. And it was in that stretch, when you kind of, like the very final stretch, you can imagine there's crowds on either side and everyone's screaming. And when I stopped and I was kind of stretching out, I'm like, when I tried to set off again, the whole crowd like erupted and was going, "Hooray!" But then the awful thing was I ran 3 steps and then went into cramp again, and they all just went quiet again. I was like, oh, I've got to do it for you guys.
The London crowds, that's what everyone says though, isn't it? It is like they do get you round.
Oh my God, absolutely. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
That bit at the end though is like the longest stretch ever. Oh. Like I remember thinking, oh yeah, like pretty much there, like the finish line's just going to be around the corner, and I thought, God, this goes on for so long.
Oh, horrifically long. Yeah, I don't ever remember when I saw that sign that said you've just got a park run left. I remember thinking, I can't do a park run now. I can't. So yeah, it was really tough. Did you do it this year?
No, I did it with like supporting a friend last year, and it was amazing. It was the first time like I'd done London Marathon. You might know Charlotte Burnett. She does compete in HYROX in a wheelchair, and she was doing her first full marathon. So it was an amazing experience, and the crowds were incredible. But yeah, I was just like taking it all in, and then like towards the end I was just like, wow, there's so many people, and like this finish line kind of goes on for so long. I was like, it's like 2 miles of just like going.
Oh, honestly. Yeah, and I think that because I didn't want to stop again, I'd kind of stopped a few times to stretch out the cramp, and I was just like, if I stop again, I might not make it over the finish line. And you can see people around you dropping like flies as well. So you're just thinking, and you can see people running past you thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad that's not me. They're looking at you going, and you can see it written on their face. They're like, thank God that's not me.
Because was it quite hot? Do you think it was the heat maybe, or was it the hydration, or what do you think?
Yeah, potentially. I think so last year when I did the 3:25 marathon, my first London marathon, I was really sick after. And I got through the finish line, was really happy, I met up with my friends. I had one sip of Jubel, and I'd been so excited.
Oh my God, that's so strong.
Well, I'd been so excited for that first beer. And then my friend handed it to me like, oh, like, well done, like, you deserve this, like, enjoy this beer. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna love it so much. I had one sip and then I was like, oh, I don't feel very well. And then basically I just projectile vomited in on this massive street in London, and then proceeded to vomit for 6 hours. Yeah, it was really bad. My friends had booked like this really, really gorgeous Sunday dinner. I had like friends that had come down with us. I was in a restaurant, and they had their Sunday dinner while I was just in the basement toilets just vomiting.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, in the end, they were like, I think you need to go to the medical centre because I won't go into any more detail, but it was bad. So, and they think that was maybe not heat stroke, that phrase wasn't used, but it was definitely because of the heat. And so I was very, very conscious this year because, at one point when I was being sick, my friend sort of like, was holding my hand. She was like, was it worth it? And I was like, no, it wasn't worth it.
That's so funny. It's like one question to ask you when you're in the middle of it.
True friend, that.
Yeah.
So I was really conscious of kind of at the drink station taking 2 bottles as opposed to just one. So I'm not sure whether it was the hydration, although it maybe not having enough electrolytes. But I also think that potentially I wasn't sort of as conditioned for the last 5K, and I think that is probably to do with the HYROXes. I was racing a lot. I missed not many, but I did miss a couple of key long runs because I was either racing or traveling or recovering from some of the racing. So I think it maybe just was just a consequence of trying to balance, but a very intense period of racing HYROX with training for the marathon.
Yeah, because did you feel it in your legs from Warsaw? Because if that was just the weekend before, or was it Friday before?
Yeah, it was the weekend before. Yeah, I think, I could definitely feel it in my legs from the week before. And when I was stood on the start line, I actually didn't feel that amazing for the marathon. But, I think I was just really determined. So yeah, whether or not my body was playing ball, I was gonna get sub 3:10.
You mentioned at the beginning about your dad, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I had the same with my dad. My dad died of M&D a few years ago, and we ended up doing a challenge with some marathons. But did that help you? Because for me, see my dad, who was super active, have MND, which is a horrible disease to watch someone go through. It made me realize that actually, like you've just said, I was just thinking about you towards the end when you got the cramp. It's the kind of thing that would just keep you going. Is it do you dig deep and think of him sometimes?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he was a huge a huge part of my sporting history. He was, both my mum and my dad did, because I used to be a swimmer. That's my background. And my mum and dad would take me to sessions, but it was my dad that did all the early mornings, the 4 a.m. starts and things like that. And he was the one more so than my mum who would know all my rivals. He would know exactly what time everybody was getting and things like that. But simultaneously he wasn't pushy, but he was a huge part of that. So he's always in my thoughts when I'm thinking of sport, and he loved to see me kind of continuing, from swimming, then going into triathlon, then going into HYROX. And, unfortunately, he never got to watch me do HYROX. He heard about it, but, when I sort of started racing, he was too poorly to watch. But he did come and watch the marathon when we'd raised all that money for M&D. And yeah, he's just always in my thoughts and pushing me through for sure.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think sometimes something like that does make you dig deeper, and it does get you to that finish line when things are tough. So kudos to you, and kudos to you for doing that marathon as well with Rob Burrows, because I'd
So
love to do that. I know that's something I'd love to go and do just for.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really special because obviously Leeds is my hometown as well. So to have something that is so meaningful and so so personal to me, and for it to be on the doorstep is just amazing. It was just last weekend, and
Cool.
yeah, and seeing everybody doing it is just wonderful.
Yeah, it's ace. It's
It
ace.
it is the worst course. I
Oh,
don't
is
know
it?
much about it. It's got at mile 18 there is a virtually like vertical hill that goes on for like 5k, and it's like a war zone. You just see people like crawling. Well, I'm probably exaggerating in my head, but I feel like I remember seeing people on their hands and knees, but I don't know whether I've just made that up.
I mean, that's a brutal, like, mile 17, 18 is that just horrible part, isn't it? Like, and then to stick a hill there, like a downhill maybe, but like, no, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
you just see people just like going down like one by one. So yeah.
Well, as you brought it up, could you talk us through before we get to HYROX, your background a little bit more? We kind of got an insight when we spoke to Fern, because she
Yeah.
obviously said that's how you guys kind of knew each other from swimming. But could you give us a little recap of how the journey went from starting as a swimmer?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, Fern and I met when we were sort of very young. I think I sometimes say 7, she says 5. We would have to ask our parents, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I started swimming at a really young age, and then kind of went up through the squads swimming for the City of Leeds. And then sort of I was a bit of a late burner. So I was very small and underdeveloped for a long time. And so I would kind of always be there and thereabouts, kind of making finals for things, but nationally, sort of not being up, in the sort of like the top few. And then I kind of had a bit of a breakthrough in my final year of school, and kind of won my first national medal. And then I went to Loughborough University, and then that's where I started to really progress. And yeah, had an incredible time there. The biggest thing that I did was I went to the Commonwealth Games, which I think that Fern sort of like mentioned before.
Pretty big.
Yeah. So I did that when I was 20. So it was actually my 3rd year of uni, I think, or 2nd year of uni. And yeah, I mean, like I could have never sort of, it was always a goal that I wanted to go as far as I could go. That's what I always would say was my goal, but kind of don't think I ever really truly believed that, I kind of had the potential to sort of like get that far with it. So yeah.
And what was your stroke
So I was a 200 medley and 400 medley swimmer. And then
all of them, all the strokes. Actually, yeah, not just one of them, all of them.
and I also went to the Commonwealth and did 200 breaststroke when I was there as well. So
How was that? Where was it at the time when
it was in New Delhi.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
what was that like? What was it like going as part of England? Is it?
Yeah, so part of
Scotland.
England.
Yeah, everyone does it in separate. What
Yeah,
was that like? Talk us through it.
It was really bizarre because when you race in these events, and particularly somewhere like New Delhi, you are kind of in a little bit of a hermetically sealed bubble, and you are in a foreign country, but you don't really feel like you get to see any of it. So people have asked me like, what's New Delhi like? And I'm like, I have no idea, because you're kind of traveling from your, you're just in the athlete village essentially, and then you are on buses to kind of go anywhere else, which I always think is a little bit of a shame. But obviously when you're there for a purpose, like, it was the biggest competition at the time, of my life. So yeah, I would like to go back and see India properly. But yeah, so we had like a holding camp in Qatar, and then went to India to race, and it was incredibly it was overwhelming. It was so scary, but so incredible. And I actually made the final. That was kind of what I did. So that was, I I think I came 8th in the final out of 8, but I made the final nonetheless.
Yeah, honestly, that's insane.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Just to get to the Commonwealths is incredible, let alone get to the final.
Yeah, I was really, really proud, really, really proud of myself. And then sort of I carried on swimming, and the following year went to like the World University Games in Shenzhen in China, which was like a real significant event. And then after that, it was sort of Olympic year. And I'd been at university for 4 years. I kind of stretched my degree to last the full cycle. And it was the Olympic trials in London. So, you know, that was incredibly special. And that was my final year of uni. And I think by that point, I mean, I didn't swim very well at the Olympic trials, which was a bit of a shame. But I don't know, I felt like I'd accomplished a lot by that point anyway. And, you know, like I said, I still finaled again at the Olympic trials, and just maybe didn't, I don't know, just didn't have that tiny little bit extra that you need, you know, to kind of be super successful on that kind of competitive stage. But yeah, and then it was after that then I stopped swimming. So
wow, that is mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Just to have like your costume and like the tracksuit and stuff that you got given.
Yeah, I think they're all at my mum's house. Yeah, I've got some crazy New Balance shoes, which are like, they're really clumpy and kind of ugly, but they're trendy again. And
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But you never know. Yeah.
It's like,
I remember being like, what the hell are these? Like, I'm never putting these on my feet, but I'll keep them because they say England on them. And then, my husband saw them at my mum's house, and he was like, oh my God, these are sick. You need to wear these.
That's so funny.
So yeah, and then I've got like an England swimming cap, which I do still wear occasionally just to intimidate people at the pool.
Yeah, fair. I would.
Yeah,
just to kind of say, like, don't swim in my lane.
yeah. I love the lane to myself. Thank you. I think, to be honest, you could probably do that just by swimming. As soon as you started, I think people will probably move out. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then from swimming came triathlon. Right?
Yeah, so when I stopped swimming at 21, I think, you know, I was quite fatigued with it. And it's so ridiculous. Like, I think back and I think, you were only 21, you were a baby. But I think I felt that, you know, I'd been doing it such a long time that I needed quite a clean break. So I moved away. I went, I went to Edinburgh, lived there for a year. And then I went traveling in Australia, did like a working holiday with my best friend for 2 years. And it was when I was in Australia that we joined a CrossFit gym. And, you know, it felt kind of far enough away from sort of like the swimming world, you know, that I kind of still felt like I was having that kind of disconnect that I needed. But then I am just like really competitive, and it kind of fulfilled that side of me. And as soon as I started CrossFit, I just, you know, loved acquiring new skills, you know, sort of like every session you would go and you would learn something new. And I always kind of then felt like it was ridiculous really that I hadn't been able to do a pull-up when I was an elite swimmer. And then, like, you know, through CrossFit learned that. And I always felt like, oh, maybe that would have complemented swimming a lot, you know, doing a lot more gym. But yeah, so I really enjoyed CrossFit, and then kind of continued that then when I got home. And you know, I was always sort of never amazing at the kind of strength side of things, but really good at the aerobic stuff from obviously the years of swimming.
Good base.
And yeah, kept that up. Did some really cool comps with CrossFit. Did some really good team events like Strength in Depth as a 12-man team. We won that one year. And I was always able to contribute, like the running, the swimming, things that involved kind of like, you know, putting yourself in a bit of a hole, like barbell cycling and things like that, as long as the weight wasn't too heavy. And then lockdown hit. And during lockdown, my husband started doing a lot of running. And, we did that thing that a lot of other people did where we kind of said, oh, it would be so nice to get bikes. So we ended up buying a couple of road bikes and had some quite funny fails, like learning how to use the clip-ins and things like that, falling over at traffic lights and and then as soon as we started doing that, I'd already had the background of swimming, and it just felt that triathlon then was like the natural progression. So I entered, I think it was Leeds Triathlon in 2021, I want to say. And Fern entered it as well. And my husband entered it, and all three of us raced. And just in that first race, I sort of like qualified for the age group world championships.
Of course you did. Were you out the swim first?
Yes, I was. Can you see me, by the way? Can you still see me okay? The sun's doing some weird things.
Oh, yeah. You're good.
So I was out first on the swim.
No surprise.
And then I just spent 40Ks getting overtaken.
Oh, you're still trying to clip in.
Oh yeah, the cycling I always found really, really hard. I mean, like, aerobic base was fine, but muscular leg endurance, not fine. And it's something I still struggle with. Like, the wall bars at the end of HYROX and my nemesis. I'm hoping to put things right in Berlin when I do it, but we'll see. It's a work in progress. I just spent 40Ks kind of having people whizzing past me saying, let's go. I was thinking, keep going. And I'm like spinning my legs around as fast as I can. So then the triathlon, then I sort of got, realised that I was onto a good thing, and sort of got a coach and locked in on triathlon for a few years actually. Did the world champs in Abu Dhabi. Both Fern and I raced in the world champs and raced against each other, which was amazing. It was kind of shortly after my triathlon journey was relatively short, like quite successful. I had, some good finishes, in my age group, at sort of like the British champs and things like that. But I felt that the training was quite lonely, is the way that I would describe it. And I kind of reached a point where, my dad got his diagnosis in 2023. And I felt that what I needed more than anything was to kind of go to a gym. CrossFit had always been my safe space. I'd been, it's something that I started with my best friend. It would be a way for us to like see one another. And I felt that kind of doing, turbos in the loft, and swimming, like kind of just very much like it's a very independent sport. Obviously running, you have a community, but I just felt that I needed something that was more sociable. Then started going to the gym a little bit more. That's when kind of I sort of then shifted from the triathlon then into more gym again, and then started entering HYROX.
Wow. And I think because you said you did CrossFit before, obviously we went out into lockdown, and then you did triathlon, you kind of knew what that community was like, I guess. So then
definitely
you're in a solo sport and you're competing on your own and you're in your own headspace, and sometimes when you've got a lot going on, like the gym isn't just somewhere to train and get fit, it's also like somewhere to get away from everything that's happening and socialize and kind of like switch off, isn't it, sometimes, and take away from everyday life and just kind of it's almost
definitely. And I think like it kind of felt that triathlon was getting a little bit serious, and it's pressure that I put on myself, but putting pressure on myself to kind of do the hours and no matter what point you're at in triathlon, whether you're an elite athlete or somebody an amateur, it requires a lot of hours. And I think I just felt at that time like I wasn't able to commit to kind of something that was so intense and so demanding and so time consuming. I was also getting married as well, and had other things to think about. There was a lot of things happening. So going back to the gym felt like a bit of a breath of fresh air. that I needed. And, you know, it was like Fern started going to the gym more as well. And like, it just felt that it kind of was something that was giving me my friendships that I needed and the social quality, definitely.
Yeah, totally see that. So then talking about HYROX, like, was it always when you first kind of heard of it and got into it, you are obviously a competitive person. Was it always like the thought that you wanted to try and like get into the elites or go as far as you could, or how did kind of, yeah, you end up where you are now in the sport as so like, yeah.
So I actually did my first HYROX when I was still doing triathlon. And someone from the gym that I used to go to had said to me, "Oh, there's this thing called HYROX. Everyone calls it HYROX." And they said, "Oh, you'd be really good at it because it's kind of got it's stripped away. It's got all the things that you're good at in CrossFit, and it's stripped away all of like the things that you're not good at."
Gymnastics and the like heavy barbells.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I entered it. I turned up at, it was HYROX Manchester. I think it was 2022, and I just went by myself. You know, like no one came with me. I just parked in the car park around the corner. I hadn't trained for it. I was like, oh, you know, like this will be fine. I didn't even know what a sled push entailed. You know, that sort of thing. So it was an open solo that I did. And I won my age group.
Yeah. I enter something, I win, and I realise I'm quite good.
And I'm guessing you qualified for world champs.
Yeah, I got qualification for world champs. That's so funny. Yeah, and I kind of I don't know if it was like a little bit I don't know. I think because I still saw myself as a triathlete, I was like, oh, this is just a little bit of fun. And of course I wouldn't be going to like, I think it was LA where the world champs were. And I was like, of course I wouldn't be going to LA. Like, you know, this is just like a fun thing that I've done. And like, it's just so ridiculous to think, you know, what it's become and how sort of, you know, you wouldn't turn down that opportunity at all. But I was quite naive, I think, about it and sort of, yeah, I had a friend who carried on with the HYROX, and she kept saying to me like, "Oh, they do an elite race, like you'd be amazing." I was like, "No, I do triathlon. That's what I do," and just kind of resisted it. I don't know why, but I just sort of like resisted going back to it. And then once I sort of like returned to the gym, I sort of like heard of more and more people doing it, and then I heard of like the doubles. And yeah, I entered it with my husband, and that's the first one that we did together. And we did a 102 together in our first one, and had a great time. Like we were nowhere near the top, but like just, yeah, had a lot of fun. And I think it didn't really sort of dawn on me that it wasn't a goal in answer to your question about the elite. You know, it wasn't something that I kind of thought that I would ever really stand a chance of getting into, or that, you know, I kind of even wanted to. I was just like, I'm enjoying going back to the gym. I'm getting fit again. This is a really fun thing to do with my partner. So yeah, it wasn't the mission.
Yeah, no, just like interested as to, yeah, if it had always kind of been the first aim. But I mean, now where you've ended up is like incredible, competing with Fern. I mean, I don't know if you know at the top of your head how many majors you've been in, but you were in all of them this season.
Yeah, so we've raced in Hamburg, Phoenix, London, and Warsaw,
Yeah.
and we qualified for Melbourne on a roll down as well. But yeah, I mean, like when Fern and I did our first race, I did have an inkling, you know, that it was going to be good. I knew that we would be a really good partnership for one another. You know, we're very similar in terms of ability and how our running and everything. So I knew that we were going to do well. But I think when we did our first one, the doubles elite wasn't a thing. It kind of kicked in maybe a few months later.
Yeah.
Because it's only been a thing, hasn't it, since Hamburg?
Yeah, it's that.
It's just been a year.
They did the.
Oh, they did the. Sorry, yeah, no, you're right.
Did they do the world?
It was the World Champs, wasn't
They
it?
did the world
Yeah.
champs was like the first one, I think.
That's why we went to Paris to try and qualify for.
Yeah, because it was
Yeah,
World
but it was
Champs.
like
Wasn't
you
in the
could-
majors until this year, was it?
No, because you could qualify for it at one race, or there was like 3 races or something to qualify.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just a different format, and it wasn't as like
A bigger thing.
it
was
wasn't
like,
what
yeah.
it is for this past season. Yeah,
Yeah.
like where
And I think, to be honest, like, even since Hamburg, you know, when we went to Hamburg, I remember having a conversation with Gabby Moriarty before. It was actually this weekend a year ago, because it was the backyard ultra that everyone's doing, and we had a conversation, and she was like, "Oh, you know, I think there's going to be a major happening, and you and Fern will probably make it." And I remember sort of like saying to her, "Really? Like, I can't imagine that, you know." That's sort of followed us through. I think, like, then we got to Hamburg, and just the whole time we were just, oh my God, I can't even believe we're here. You know, like, this is absolutely insane. Like, never taking sort of any of it for granted. And then in Hamburg, we got a result that we just couldn't believe. You know, we came sixth. Sorry, my cat has started meowing really bad.
Just proud of you for what you achieved in Hamburg. Yeah.
We hadn't gone into that race thinking that we were even going to be in with a chance of qualifying at all, you know, for the World Champs, but actually it ended up being really quite close. You know, particularly for that third spot. Obviously, part of that was to do with Gabby and Zara's penalties, and then being like stood in the box for ages.
So mental to watch.
Oh my God! Yeah,
stressful race. I mean, like everyone, it was a good race for everyone watching. But
it was like all the penalties. What was it like in that race to be part?
Oh my God!
Like, mental. There was just like people everywhere getting penalties, and everyone standing in boxes, and it's just like, it was wild to watch.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, yeah, because me and Fern actually didn't get a penalty in that race, and that was what we were like.
The only pair.
Yeah, we were like, oh my God, we are the only ones who didn't get one. Because as you were running around, you could just hear them saying, and that's a minute for this pair, and that's a minute and a half for this pair, and so we could sense that we were still in the mix, you know, because of that. So each run was kind of getting almost like more intense, because she knew that actually it was going to end up with being like seconds between you rather than minutes. So yeah, but it was an insane race. I still think that was my favorite out of all of the ones that I've done, because it was our first, obviously, which is always going to be really special. It was on the grid, which was incredible. You know, like, you could see the same people, you know, it was 6 laps or something, but it just meant that the crowd was, you know, insane. So yeah, that was a really, really special race. But ever since then, you know, we've never kind of set out in Phoenix, in London, like all of these races, we've never kind of said like our goal is to qualify for World Champs. You know, like, we've kind of had a bit of an inkling, like, we're not terribly far away. But I think that we've always had like a healthy, like, what I think is quite a healthy outlook of like, we're just going to go and do our best. You know, our careers won't live or die on this. Like, you know, we both have lots of things outside of this, and it's just about kind of seeing how well we can do, and trying to kind of like, yeah, meet or go beyond our expectations. But yeah, I've never for one second taken it for granted.
Yeah, no, it's like, and I think hopefully that shows in your racing and you guys enjoying the experience and not putting too much pressure on yourselves, and taking it all in, because it's like incredible to make it to the majors and be in the mix and part of that race. Like, yeah,
definitely. Sorry, go on.
What's it been like what's it like compared to, you know, racing in the Commonwealth swimming and then doing the triathlon in like age group for your country, and now doing HYROX? What's it like? Is it similar? Like, has it helped you? Is it similar? Like, is the Elite 15 experience similar to, like, I don't know, what you've had in other sports? Like,
yeah, so I think it is similar. Like, especially when you go and you do the briefings and things like that, and you're listening to Matt, and you know, it is very serious, you know, and that is reminiscent of kind of the things I experienced like racing in the Commonwealth Games, you know, that kind of everything becomes a little bit more professional and serious. But I do think that it's prepared me for it. But I think I enjoy it a lot more now. I think that when I was younger and sort of experienced that, it would just like overwhelm me, and I get absolutely like terrified and like filled with nerves. I think obviously it helps as well, it being a doubles, because I always kind of just look at Fern, and just like her presence is reassuring, you know, because you know that you're not doing it by yourself. I don't know how I would feel if it was a solo, like maybe those nerves would come back, but it's definitely kind of sated by, you know, or lessened by there being two of us.
Yeah. And did it feel like just as cool to get the kit as it did getting an England kit for the Commonwealth? Or was it like more of a... Because like most people, you're like, oh, what was it like getting your Elite 15 kit? But most people haven't gone and got like kit for their country. Whereas I feel like that's like you've kind of had that experience that.
Yeah, I have, but it still didn't make it any less special. You know?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was still so cool. I think because in many ways, you know, like I sort of touched on before, with my swimming, I did feel like I stopped when I was quite young. And the irony of it is that when I was actually competing at the Commonwealths, the commentators, I only know this because my mum was watching the TV. She said that the commentators kind of said like, oh, and this is Kate Hutchinson, and she's quite old to be making a debut. And it is so interesting, like upon reflection, because I was so young. And yeah, it's hard to believe, really. And I think that it's only like since I've got older that I've been like, oh, I kind of perhaps wish that I'd maybe stuck out swimming for another Olympic cycle, because then I would have still only been 25. You know, I probably would have had more in me and more to give, especially being a bit of a late bloomer. But I don't have any regrets, because those 4 years that I spent sort of like traveling and doing CrossFit have like led me to where I am now. So yeah, but I think that kind of going back into the Elite Lounge and sort of experience that as well, it kind of just felt like, oh, I'm kind of maybe getting something that I felt that I'd, you know, left
short almost. Yeah, that you didn't. Yeah,
the cat's on the table
now. Joining the party.
And do you think it helped you at all? Do you think it's given you an edge mentally? Because like standing up on like a world stage and doing an individual like heat, or like getting into an individual final in the Commonwealths versus then also being in that start tunnel for the Elite 15, considering there's some girls that have never like competed at that level and have got into like the HYROX Elite 15, but you've been at that level. Do you think it's helped you, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't know. I think less so that helping me and more just my mindset of like, this is an honor. Do you know, I kind of, like I've said a couple of times, I sort of like I just absolutely love it. Like, I just feel like it's such a privilege to be there in the first place. So I just think whatever happens, it literally, did you see the cat's tail? You know, it's incredible to have even be lining up here. So I think that's helped. Kind of contextualizing things and having perspective, I think, has given me, you know, maybe not an edge, but it helps me cope with any pressure that I feel. Because I just think, oh my God, what an amazing thing. Like, even if it goes horribly wrong, you know, I'm among a small percentage of people that have ever managed to say that they're doing this.
Yeah, that's such a cool way to look at it.
Yeah, good perspective. And then what about training? You've obviously done a lot of training in your career and different types. How does it differ now from what you've done before, like, or volume wise? Like you mentioned, obviously triathlon was like huge volume of training. Like now for training for HYROX, well, you also just trained for a marathon, so that's quite high volume. But you'd let us know, what's your training like?
Training is kind of it's changing quite a lot, really, because I've recently started with a new coach, a woman called Cami. And
Cammy, yeah.
Big up
Cammy.
Seven.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone knows Cammy, don't they?
Everyone knows Cammy. She's a legend. And yeah, so I sort of, like I say, about a year ago, I took on board a HYROX coach and then was just kind of doing classes at the gym. And then sort of muddling my way through a little bit, coming up with some of my own workouts and that sort of thing. And then, yeah, it sort of, I did that for maybe like 6 to 8 months, and then kind of felt that, right, I'd like my gym stuff, my HYROX stuff to be a little bit more focused. So brought her on board. So now I'm kind of, yeah, trying to, I think the weeks are a lot more structured than they used to be, and everything feels very, very purposeful. So at the minute I'm doing, if you want the full breakdown, on a Monday I do lower body strength, Tuesday upper body strength, and both of those days have a bit of a workout. So, you know, on a Monday it'll be like rowing and burpees at the minute. Tuesday is echo bike intervals. Wednesday I do track, which is something that I've kind of done for like the last year. Thursday has kind of recently become more of like a kind of HYROX conditioning piece, but not absolutely all out, you know, something that kind of is just working on the transitions, and trying not to have, you know, trying to have too big a rest between the movements. And then Friday is a rest day. And then this last week, Saturday, has been like more of a speed session. So previously, during the marathon, the weekends were kind of just running, you know, with the Sunday being like the key session, the long intervals. Whereas now, yeah, it's going to be about speed and still kind of maintaining some full body strength on a Saturday. And then today has been a sprint workout and a long run, like a long, easy run, but nowhere near the length of like what I was doing in the marathon. So it's definitely becoming more gym centered now.
Okay.
Yeah. And how do you balance that? Because we were talking before, and you're a teacher.
Yeah.
Also, full time.
Yes. Yeah. Full time English teacher. Yeah.
Wow. And so English.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
I know.
I just thought you'd be a PE teacher because how do you balance everything then? Like, I'm guessing early mornings, late nights, or
yeah. So, I mean, I think that people think that I maybe do more than I like, train more than I do. I basically train either 6 or 7 days a week. And my sessions are either are about an hour to an hour and a half. Which I think that a lot of people are doing, you know, even when they're casual gym goers, you know, I have sort of like friends who go to CrossFit and they'll train 6 or 7 days a week and do the class every day. And I think that, you know, obviously it is something that I've done for my whole life. So I think that's how I balance it, really, is that I'm just very, very used to it. And I'm used to kind of ending the day with my set workout. So I train on a night predominantly, just because I end up going to work. I leave for work at about 7:30, and I'm, you know, after all of those years of like, I honestly used to get up at 4 a.m. you know, to swim. I'm not too bothered about doing that anymore.
fair. That's fair.
I think if I hadn't have done that for like 15 years, then maybe I would be a little bit more motivated to get up on a morning. But honestly, like, I do just like getting up at 6 o'clock. Like, that is early enough for me. Yeah. Having a nice big breakfast, going to work feeling fresh, and then I train after. And I think the training is something that I actually really look forward to. You know, and I'm very lucky, you know, my husband also trains a lot, you know, he's got his own personal goals. He recently ran a sub-3 marathon, you know, and it's, you know, we don't have children and things like that. So we do spend quality time together, like whilst training. So I think that's really helpful. Obviously, if one of us was at home and feeling neglected, then it wouldn't be quite so fun. So to kind of be on that journey together is really helpful and helps us balance, for sure.
Yeah. Fair. And do you have is it now full time with Cami coaching, or do you still have a run coach for someone? Because you mentioned you got the run coach for the marathon. Was that just specifically for the marathon goal?
Yeah, so initially it was going to be, and then I've just kind of stayed with him since. So Cami does my kind of HYROX programming and everything that isn't sort of the running, and then I'm still with him for the running at the moment. Yeah.
And you've mentioned like through the whole thing, every time you've done a different sport, then you've got a coach. How important do you think it is to like find the right person and get a coach? Do you think it's like the key to getting the most out of your training, or?
I think so, definitely. I think if you want it to be purposeful, then definitely getting a coach. But I wouldn't in all the sports that I've done. So I didn't get a coach in CrossFit, but maybe that's because I didn't have kind of lofty goals in CrossFit. But certainly when I started triathlon, then that became important. But in both triathlon and HYROX, I didn't do it straight away. I kind of did give myself time to sort of like just like settle into the sport and kind of see what it's about, and am I going to be in it for a long time, or am I just kind of passing through? Because I think that it can be very easy to kind of go all in really, really quickly, and then you might start with someone and be like, actually, I really am not that invested in it, or I don't even enjoy it that much, and then you've kind of made a commitment. And I just think, yeah, so I think it's important to kind of maybe figure out like what works for you first, like exclusive of a coach, and before bringing someone on board. Because it also allowed me to kind of figure out like what days do I enjoy training, like what are kind of non-negotiables, and then you can relay that to the coach rather than them necessarily like dictating on what day you do various things. Because I just know that like certain days of the week are like way busier with my timetable, and then I'm able to kind of like share that rather than kind of muddling through something. But yeah, 100%. Like having a good relationship with a coach is paramount to your success. I've been very, very lucky with the coaches that I've had throughout my life, and the coaches that I had in swimming were just integral to the person that I became, not just the swimmer that I became, but like, the person I am. So I think it's really important to sort of like find somebody who gets you as a person, not just as an athlete.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And it's like one coach is great for someone, but might not be right for somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I do think that Cami is a really good fit for me. She's brilliant. I think she understands who I am as a person and what makes me tick, and she's kind of like read that quite quickly. And I think that she really, really values kind of like honesty and being open, and having a lot of communication, a lot of dialogue, which I really like. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good fit for a long time.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I definitely think like we went to a session with Cami and Lauren, and I think they're two of the best female coaches I've ever been to a session with.
Yeah.
I think they're like incredible coaches, and they give so much to their athletes. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I just went on a sort of like a mini kind of world's prep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look,
How was that?
Good. We were messaging Kat. We were like, oh my God, the best time.
It was amazing. I mean, the marathon was only 3 weeks ago now, and in that first week, I did nothing, and then even sort of, so then the training camp was a bit of a baptism of fire.
So you, Kat Parnell.
It was me, Kat Parnell, Gabby Moriarty, Zara Piagiani, Alice Jones, and then obviously like Lauren and Cami. Yeah.
They were putting you through your paces, or what was the?
Oh my God, those girls they're just ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. Yeah, so I arrived at in Manchester on Friday night after work, and I'd sort of like driven there. I got to the class maybe with like a minute to spare, and I'd been told that I needed to get to there to do death camp at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Right. What great start. Yeah, cool. I'll be there, girls.
Let me know what time, and I'll be there.
Friday night fun.
So yeah, and then that was kind of like a CrossFit like pairs workout, with some running. So yeah, I got straight stuck into that, and it was nice to just be be in a class environment, because I do a lot of my training by myself now. I'm sort of saying, obviously I train with my partner, but I go to a gym that's not like a CrossFit-y gym, you know, and do work through my program. So it was really nice to be part of like a massive class. And then over the weekend we just did like some sprint workouts, some strength. We did a disgusting running session of like 400 meters hard, you know, I think how many times did we do it? 16 times. But yeah, just being in that environment with those girls was incredible, because, you know, I had to keep reminding myself a few times, like, you're with the best, you're with some of the best girls in the world, you're with some of the best girls in the world, like, you know, because like, I suppose to an extent, when I do classes and things like that at gyms, it might be that I'm generally like one of the first ones to finish, and then, you know, you get thrown in with Zara and Gabby, and, you know, I'm coming dead last, and it's like, well, remember, they are the best in the world.
Do you think that helps though? Like, because sometimes, like, they say train with people better than you to get better. Like, did you think it helped you push? Like,
definitely, yeah. And I think also, like, it gave me confidence too, because, you know, like there were certain workouts where, like, you know, I had I was stronger, and then like there were things where weaknesses were very much exposed, and I think that's really, really good to see. And it, you know, it's good to stay humble, and for you to realize, like, I really do need to squat more. You may hate it, but you need to do it.
Yeah, fair. That's cool though. It's cool to see like you girls getting together and like training together, because I think a lot of the time people can think coming up through the ranks or like when they're competing that you just have to be competitors, but you can like all rise together and be the best. You know, you can be even like
supporting each other.
Supporting each other. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, and you know what, like, we are also competitive. Like, I mean, it was funny because Cammy and Lauren sort of, they gave us one workout and they said, this is not a race. And then you're like, well,
but it is.
Tell that to Gabby, you know, like, it's never gonna be. And, you know, we were kind of, me and Alice were sort of like doing some lunges and, or I think it was maybe kettlebells. And we did one, I think they'd set us to do 4 lengths, and Gabby and Zara had accidentally done 5. And I could hear Gabby going, why are they putting it down? Why are they putting it down? And I was like, it's not a race. Remember, it's not a race. Yeah, so it's impossible not to, like, when you all get together, it definitely is. But like, I think it's a really nice like culture of competition, you know. And I found that like at every major, I think that like the girls in that world are so lovely, like super competitive but really welcoming, and like it's really nice to have a chat and have a laugh, you know, before you're out there, and it's just really supportive after as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I was just gonna ask about like the CrossFit. Do you feel like there's been a benefit from doing the marathon training crossing over to HYROX, or do you feel like it was so different and like it's such different kind of time domains that you're like running that it's not had much of an effect?
Yeah, I think it's definitely kind of given me a lot of fitness. I think that the speed that you need for HYROX maybe is I've kind of not necessarily got that through the marathon training. But yeah, I think it's been complementary to it, like in terms of how fit you get from it, and sort of like the running. Obviously, like the amount of mileage, it's upped, but I never went to a point that was a ridiculous amount of mileage anyway. I kind of sat around, I think my highest was like 60 Ks, which I think that in itself does complement HYROX. It wasn't like I was kind of up near 100, where I think that, you know, that might then be detrimental. But I think it's just now a question of kind of getting back the speed that maybe I've lost. And, you know, that's why I'm sort of being set these like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off type things, just to sort of remind my legs to turn over quickly, you know. Not everything needs to be a plod.
Applaud at 4:20. I'd happily plod at 4:20 for 37k.
Yeah, but I think it has made me sort of, I don't know, I would think carefully about balancing a marathon with a HYROX, you know, and I think just more so, not even like for the impact on HYROX, because I think that I still managed to perform well on that front. I think it's more that I would like to sort of do a marathon block and feel like I've given it my all, because even though I have come away with a time that I do feel really happy with, I still think that there would have been more in there. But I think that the difference is that I just think that I'm, you know, this HYROX sort of trajectory that I'm on, and kind of racing at like a really, really high level, that's not going to last forever. You know, it's going to be, anything could change. It could change next season. You know, we just don't know. And the more runners that keep crossing over into HYROX, like the more competitive it's going to be. You know, you've got the likes of Saskia and Holly, you know, who are obviously making huge waves. And their running is just, I will never be able to compete with that, you know, because they've got 25 years of experience at, you know, versus my sort of like 4 or 5. So I'm kind of aware that might not go on forever. Whereas I feel like a marathon, as long as everything stays healthy, I can keep trying to hit kind of personal goals forever, you know, and so it feels like I don't need to necessarily like rush into another one. Although I'm saying this, I think I got the championship time, and I can just already feel myself be like, well, I'm just gonna have to do that next year.
I was literally gonna ask.
Yeah,
I was about to be like, oh, so is there another one on the horizon? Well, maybe. But you did mention Berlin as well. What are the next races on the horizon for you, whether that is HYROX or marathons?
Yeah. So the next races, so I've got Berlin. I'm doing a doubles race actually with Alice this time.
Oh, cool.
The brand A-Scene, which is the Davis sisters, Meg Davis sort of asked us if we wanted to race in their race kit, which is like a real honour. That'll be wonderful. And then I'm going to do the Solo Pro the week after. So I'm in Berlin for about a week. Because it's on for 2 weekends.
Like, yeah, it's big, yeah.
Yeah.
That new scene kit looks cool as well. The new shorts. Is it the new shorts?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. So, and yeah, like it'll just be that'll be really fun. I think Alice is doing her Solo Pro the day before. So, you know, like, and she's racing Worlds with Becky Beach. So this is kind of a bit of just like a fun hit out for us to just kind of like, yeah, have a really good time on a really good course. And then, yeah, the Solo Pro the week after, a little bit more nervous for that. I feel that the Solo Pros get bigger in my head because I do them so more infrequently. But I think just any experience is good. I've only ever done 3, you know, so I think, and I've entered Worlds in the Solo Pro, so I think it's important to do one before then. Yeah, just remind myself how disgusting it is.
Do you prefer doubles to solo?
I think the kind of athlete I am, I think I'm better at doubles. I think that from like years of swimming, like intervals are my thing. I recover quite quickly. I think that's a strength of mine, as opposed to just holding a threshold for a long time. Like, even though you would think like with triathlon, like, you know, that would kind of cross over, and which of course it does. I'm not saying I'm bad at it, but I definitely think that just at the minute, the doubles is probably where my strength is. But then equally, I think that the more races of Solo Pro that you do, the better that you will get. I think it's a massively an experience thing there. You know, look at sort of like your Charlie Bottrells and those types of people, and like now people like Gabby and like Charlie Searle and Lauren, you know, they're racing a lot. And I don't blame them, because I just think you need to make a lot of mistakes maybe with it as well. And in my first one, I, you know, completely messed up the sled pull, completely messed up the farmer's carry, and I think you just need to see where there are pinch points in the race and kind of get used to getting through those, really. But but I'm hoping that, yeah, I'd like to do more. Definitely, I'd like to do more solos. Although, ask me after Berlin, I'll probably say never again.
Well, you'll have Stockholm to do one, so yeah, that'll be awkward. And are you and Fern racing in Stockholm? Are you going to do age group?
No, we're actually not racing in Stockholm. So I entered the solo pro and I entered mixed doubles with my husband. And yeah, we were sort of like kind of holding off to see whether anything came from Warsaw and that kind of thing. And then I spoke to Cami and she sort of said, don't do 3 races. 3 races is too much. And obviously, yeah, I mean, like, it was a hard one really, because I think that we would be really successful, like in the age group race. However, you know, we have also done some amazing things this year that I just think maybe, like, for me, just on a personal level, I think they maybe trump that. You know, like, kind of doing the majors was just so special that I just don't think that anything can top that anyway. And I just think then, like, why not just go and see what you can do in the solo? And obviously racing with my husband will be a really, like, special experience. You know, he sort of like said, you know, that, like, I think the solo was maybe a little bit out of his league. So in order for him to race at the Worlds, you know, it would be in a mixed. So yeah, so we're just going to go and have fun there.
Yeah. That's the nicest thing about HYROX though, isn't it? You're not like, you don't have to just do one thing. Like, you can go and do a mixed doubles, you can do like relays, you can do solos. It's
yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, they're the kind of 2 HYROXy things that I've got, and then obviously no plans sort of after that because it's the end of the season essentially. So we'll just kind of see what comes after that. This is me, I'm so ridiculous though, because I've crammed in other things as well. So between Berlin and World Champs, I'm doing a 400-kilometer team relay from Slovenia to Croatia.
Sneak that in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I was asked to do it, to be fair, and it just seemed. Last year I did the Speed Project, if you've heard of that.
Oh yeah, from LA to Vegas.
So I did the one that was from Chamonix to Marseille.
Oh, okay,
cool.
yeah.
And it was honestly like one of my favorite things that I've ever done. And it was with a team that I didn't know beforehand. A little bit like this. I know one girl who's on the team for this. And yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I sort of said yes, because I'd always heard of the Speed Project. I knew it was cool. But I was also like quite motivated by, you know, my dad's passing and kind of just thought like, do you know what? Just say yes to things, like, just
do it while you can.
Yeah, exactly, like eke everything you can out of life. And yeah, so I knew that, I don't know, if I got an opportunity to do something like that again, I would do, because I think it fulfills a different aspect for me as well, because it's not about being really competitive and not about like winning. It's just about kind of being a part of a team, supporting each other, like as you run into the night, like seeing some amazing places. So even though it's long, it doesn't feel like it's kind of going to interfere too much with, you know, the sort of like goals that I've got to hit times in HYROX necessarily.
Is that a Speed Project one as well?
It's not a Speed Project, it's called Eurotrip.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, and to be honest, I still don't know like tons about it. I just know that I'm going in 2 weeks.
Going,
just gotta run. It's fine.
Yeah, it's very me coded, not really like being very well prepared.
You seem to get away with it, so I just crack on doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like it'll be interesting to kind of see what next year looks like. There's a lot of unknowns. You know, obviously with all of like the HYROX qualification for the majors changing. I think that Fern and I are sat in a good position at the moment from the start list. I think we're looking at about 10th. But I really just don't know how quickly that's going to change. Obviously we've become quite used to, I've had like, you know, notes pages where I like look at everyone's times. I'm on like RoxFit and stuff, and I know everyone's times for everything and how far are we away. Because, you know, for us, we've been sort of, around the 15, you know, like the 15th position. You know, I think that we've kind of we got ourselves up to 11th or something like that at one point after Stockholm, and then just people race and race, and then you get bumped and bumped, and every weekend you're like, damn it.
There's like 3 races every weekend now, so it's just like so much going on.
We were 11th the other day, and now we're 17th. But
crazy.
Yeah. So we'll sort of see. Yeah, hopefully we'll get another chance to race in the elite kit.
Yeah,
definitely.
Fingers crossed. Well, I mean, I think we could talk for hours. God. I feel like I've got like even more questions, but we'll just have to get you back on again and go over more. So I will round up by asking you our last question, which is, what message or advice would you give to your younger self or the next generation of girls coming up?
I think it would be something connected to sort of what I was saying before about feeling very young when I was doing the swimming and when I stopped. I think I would say to my younger self, like, you've still got time. You know, you just you're not old at 20. You know, like, just keep going, and it's never too late. You know, I'm 35 now, and I just don't feel like I've got any sort of like sign or anything like that of stopping. And I just truly think that you're not too old for it, and it's never too late. And I think to kind of like the younger generation, it would be something similar. You know, don't stop. Like, do try and stay in sport in some capacity, and like don't let kind of setbacks sort of push you out of it. And if kind of, you know, one sport isn't going well for you, or you feel like you've reached your potential in one sport, like, there are other things to learn and new spaces to enter, and new skills to gain, and just kind of, you know, it can give you so much, can sport, can't it, and shape you into the person that you are, and teach you so much about life. And I just think it's so important to kind of try and stay in it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, really good note to finish on, so thank you.
No, you're so welcome.
And where can anyone, if they're not already following you, where can anyone follow your journey, or is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners?
I think so. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at katehutchinson.hy, HY. That's where I am mainly. I try to use TikTok, but it's very time consuming, isn't it?
I feel like we've never got.
Everyone says that as well. Everyone's like, I'm kind of there.
Yeah,
not really.
So just Instagram. I'm on there, just sharing things. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And a huge good luck to you. Your next race is Berlin and your 400k. And then World Champs, and hopefully we will see you there.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting.